Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, okay.
5:31 p.m. Call the meeting order.
Here at the power line or telecommunications.
Ask Craig Duff, he'll lead us in prayer and a pledge, please.
Y'all bow your heads with me this evening. Feel like it's Sunday morning. You know, nobody knows what you guys go through except Jesus does. So if you just give me just a moment, if you have it in your heart to pray this, I'm going to pray it. Lord Jesus, we give you everything. We give you everyone. We give you everything. Everything that we hold on to that tries to hold us back from doing the greatest job that we can ever do. And we give you everyone that becomes a weight on our shoulders. Lord, I pray for these people here in this meeting. I thank you, Father, for keeping them safe, for giving them health, for them and their whole family. And Lord, we're praying for wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. God, that you would give each person here a greater vision for Breckenridge, that their hearts would be full and that they would be free in Jesus' name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Trey. Appreciate it very much. We'll go to the open forum.
There's no speakers. There's no speakers for the open forum.
Okay. Go to the staff report. We'll turn it over to our city manager, Cynthia.
Sorry, I've got several things to talk about, give you guys an update tonight. I did want to give you an update, and I forwarded you the email, but I want to talk about it here in open session. Encore had sent us an information letter. They are going to be updating their system resiliency plan. And so they're using several technologies to do so. And probably the most notable one is drones. So between now and May, they're going to be going and inspecting their lines. And so there'll be drones over their lines. And it's in reference to that. So just if people see that, if people see drones and they wonder what they're doing, there's not, no target shooting. That's what's going on. It is legitimate and they're inspecting their lines. So I wanted to make you aware of that. Also, it's always good to see standing room only. And we've had that more and more, especially as we're recognizing employees and things like that. But we are going to be doing some improvements to City Hall here. We're going to push this wall back. It's going to give us, we're short of finding another building, which we don't have the money to do that. But what it will do, it will give us another 12 feet or so. So we'll be able to fit a couple more rows in. And that work is going to start Thursday. We did get several bids for that. We got 5 different ones, so we gave it to the lowest and the best, and that was David Stowe. And that work will start Thursday. That work will start Thursday, and it's really the timing is going to be important because it's got to be done on April 1st. Because April 1st is the next commission meeting and we do live streaming, but I think it will be. But anyway, I just want to let you know.
It's only going this way, Cynthia. We're not taking out anything there, right?
It's only going that way. Yeah,
Just
and
talking
well,
about it.
now this will be taken out, the spur down, so it'll be one, you know, one level, on the ceiling there. But it will go all the way back. So this will move somewhere along this wall. That will stay there. We'll move the camera. There are, speakers up in the ceiling and we'll, add some, and it'll be back farther.
That was Rena's office or something like
Yes.
that? Okay.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of storage back there. And so we moved that. Some of that storage was, actually, public works stuff, so we put that in, at the top shop and, some of the documents and maps, a lot of maps, and then, we are using the Y as a storage building right now, so some of it went over there, so.
That's got a good roof.
Yeah. So that will be good. It won't be so crowded, hopefully the next time everybody shows up. Okay, and then we do have, the solid waste, as I, communicated with you guys last month, will be out on the street tomorrow. It'll be advertised on the 5th and on the 12th. Of course, once that's advertised, really strict, rules about, conversations with prospective proposers, with staff and with, commission members. Any questions will, be, submitted in writing. We'll answer those and post them online so everybody has the answer to those questions. The deadline for questions of clarification is March 21st. And then the deadline for the RFP is, March 28th. That will allow us to award it on May 6th and allow, if there is a transition, it will allow 3 months for transition. And, it would start, the 1st of August, August. So that's kind of the time frame that we're looking at there. We do have the Citizens Academy, the 3rd class in the Citizens Academy, next Monday, talking about public works. We do, and I've let you guys know this, but we got 20 participants, so that's good. I think people are really enjoying that. We'll, have, as we've been doing admin things, but we're gonna get into more of the show and tell. So we've got public works on the, agenda next, and we'll be doing a PowerPoint, but then we'll do a show and tell, and we'll take them to the top shop. And when we do police, fire, animal shelter, we'll have show and tell then as well. So anyway, that's going well. And then last but not least, I wanted to recognize our employee of the month. And, this time it is, Scott Bills. He's the superintendent of the, if you want to come up, you gotta come up, Scott.
Man, I want to.
Yeah, to come right up here where everybody can see you. I would give him a round of applause. Scott has been here for 17 years. In September, it will be 17 years. And he truly exemplifies the core Breck values. He is as steady as the day is long. He's very much attention to detail. His staff is on the ball and they do a great job. He was promoted to superintendent, so he's over the water treatment plant and the wastewater treatment plant. And so he's been doing a lot of cross training at the wastewater treatment plant with Grant and doing a fantastic job. So I just want to recognize you and really appreciate you. Thank you. And Jessica's going to cover the events.
So for the events for the month of March, as always, we have boat pickup on the 3rd Thursday of every month. Residents can sign up the Friday before and online. We do put a lot out there about that, so something we really want people to utilize. Spring Fling is coming up for the Chamber of Commerce. That's also on the 20th of March. So get out, go shop, buy local.
We're shopping and getting all the trash picked up on the same day.
Yeah, yes, a lot done. And then more trash pickup. So the city and the county do partner together to do a citywide brush pickup. The trucks will run the entire city the week of March 24th to the 27th. So, residents don't have to sign up for that. I guess they can just put their brush out on the curb, kind of keep it away from trash, from mailboxes and things like that, but.
It does have, what's the deadline for that to be out?
We do ask that they get it out by the Friday, around the Friday before, yeah. And then on our Facebook page, there is some kind of how we ask that it be put out, because it does make it easier for our crews to go out. We ask that it be placed parallel to the curb. It makes it easier for the grabber to come out and grab all of that at one time. And just speeds up the process for all of the crews, city and county both. And of course, if it's not, I know sometimes it might take a little bit longer, but if people are just patient, it will get picked up. And they're gonna run the whole city, so. Oh, yeah, in the past, and I guess, yeah, in the past, there's been brush cutting out of the ball fields. That's no longer allowed, so we are really wanting people to use the brush pickup out at the convenience station, which is free to residents with a water bill and a license. And also the annual brush pickup that we do. So we try to offer a lot of options for that, just no dumping in the ball fields.
One item about this building, Will, correct me if I'm wrong, please. Lester Clark had this built, didn't he? This was his before they moved later where they are. Is that right? Or did he give this to the city, I think?
We gave it to the city.
Yeah, okay, and that just, y'all, most of you probably don't know Lester, he passed away years ago, but my gosh, we could sit here all night long and name what he's done for the city, these guys know him, but anyway, it just, it's turned out good for the city, absolutely. All righty, we're gonna go to item number 3.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm gonna turn this over to our police chief. Chief, it's all yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tiffany, why don't you come on up here with me? So today we're recognizing Tiffany Newman. Tiffany is our newest certified dispatcher. For those of y'all don't know, the dispatchers, when we hire them, if they have not been certified before, they have up to 1 year that we need to get them certified. So this Tiffany has just completed her certification course last month, 2 months ago, I guess, last month. And so Tiffany is now a certified communicator. One of the things I will tell you about Tiffany is, you know, it's always amazing to me because coming into policing here, I have not hired so many young people. And I will tell you, I have so much confidence when I have people like Tiffany. She's the voice overnight. She's gonna be the person that's gonna be answering the phone. She's already handled everything from fires to extreme stuff. In fact, we had a very sensitive case that came up that we needed help, and I remember calling her early in, just saying, "Hey, we need you in," and she drops everything, comes right in. So she comes from a different generation from me, but I can tell you that she brings forward a commitment, not just to the job, but to the people she serves, because she takes care of us and she makes sure our people are safe. So we're very fortunate, and I'm really glad to have an opportunity for y'all to know that Tiffany is our newest certified communicator, and she continues to serve us well. This is your opportunity if you'd like to say anything. That's how she works. Thank you.
Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you, chief. All right, of course, no action taken on that, except a good hand clap. We'll go to consent agenda. Any commission member may request an item on the consent agenda to be taken up for individual considerations. And we'll look at 4 and 5, and then we'll ask for a approval on that from one of y'all, please.
I move to approve consent agenda items 4 and 5 as presented.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? Thank you. Right, go to our public hearing items. We're gonna open up the public hearing at 5:45. All right, and 2 items on it. Number 6. Public hearing to determine whether or not the building on property located at 1208 West 3rd, Mountain Heights Edition, Block 6, Lot 4, 5, 6, and 7 is a dangerous building pursuant to Chapter 5, Ordinance 1 of the Breckenridge Code of Ordinances. Now,
I do have a speaker for item number 6, Philip Smith.
Hey, you got me come up there?
Yes,
Or-
yes,
that'd be
please.
Thanks. I'd like to thank you guys for letting us extend the time last time so we could get a plan together. That was what I was supposed to do when I come back here, and we thought, we considered a couple of different plans to which way to go, and still open to some suggestions at some point, but we decided, that we got a couple of bids for some contractors here locally. That, we thought that we could get the building actually to where it would pass inspection again, so we decided that we would go that route on it. And so I hired the contractor, and the contractor's working currently on that. He says he can get it into compliance with the bid that he gave me. And so he's almost done. I got a few pictures. I think I sent it somewhere, so the only thing that's left on the item is he's been strengthening some of the framework and things on the trailer, the one that's in question, the trailer house. And then he's gonna go ahead and side the rest of it, and then we're gonna close it in all the way. He should have that done, he said, this week. He was supposed to have it done last week, but some stuff come up, so. But that's what we're decided. That's our plan forward. And I still have some other plans forward, hopefully. I'd like to eventually get that property to the point to where I could have water put on it. We could open up the water on it so that, I'm talking about just the two lots that that are in question right now. And then, have some trash service and those things added there. My son's still living there, and he's working on it still at this point. We had two full roll-off boxes hauled off there, and they skid, they did a skid steer, and so we're working on it. We're working on it. And so our plan forward is to continue to do that. Our plan forward is to build a fence on the property eventually. Hopefully like the one that's right next door to us, but we're taking bids on fences right now, so. We don't want to demolish the buildings at this time unless there is something better, and I appeal to the city. If there is something that's going to help my son's life, I'm all ears. We're willing. The most important thing here to me is him, because he's disabled. He's mentally disabled, and he lives there, and it's either that, where he's at and how it's going with what minimum things that I can do for him, or him loses property, from the city, from it not meeting the standard code. So if there's anything that we can do as a community, right? I mean, I consider myself part of the community. I pay taxes here. Maybe we could come up with something, any kind of things that are for disabled people, benefits, ways to go about doing it so that we can comply completely. And yet at the same time, not put my son on the street. Our situation's a little bit unique in the fact that it's not just a property, it's not an investment. It's just, we're not real estate brokers, we're just trying to give my son a place to live. And this is the conditions that it's living in, that he's living in, so. And I believe that's all I have to say about it, unless you guys have some questions about.
This is the public hearing,
This is
so we'll
just-
have the discussion on the action item.
Okay, all right, thank you. So I guess I'm done. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Item 7, public hearing regarding amending chapter 5, building and structures of the Breckenridge Code of Ordinances.
Mayor, I did not have anyone sign to speak for that item.
I'm sorry.
There was no speakers for that item.
Okay, all right. At 5:50, we will close the public hearing then. Go to our next order of business. And that's action item 8. Discussion any necessary action regarding declaring 1208 West Third a dangerous building pursuant to chapter 5, article 1 of the Breckenridge Code of Ordinances. And there's 2 recommendations we have, and I'll turn it back over to our city manager, let her.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and Commissioner. As you know, the last time, 2 months ago, this was here, you gave, Mr. Smith
Yes.
an additional 60 days to come up with a plan. He has made improvements on the surrounding property and cleaning up. The property, I don't see any improvements to the structure itself, and even though it is appreciated that the cleanup of the property has gone on, I mean, I don't see any improvements of the building itself, so staff is still recommending, I mean, there's two options, either declare it substandard, or, declare it substandard and allow him additional time, you know, to get those improvements done. If they're not, then it would be demolished at that point. If he didn't meet that time frame, whatever that time frame was, if it's 30 days or 60 days. So there's a couple of different routes y'all can go on that.
That's not the house that his son is living in. That's just next door. That's not the one he lives in.
Yeah, the one.
Yeah, he doesn't live in it.
What's that you say?
He does not live in that house.
Right, so
Okay, okay.
right now, the property in question is just, that's the one his son lives in.
Okay, the one.
The one in question is the one-
But this is actually the property in question, that one,
Okay,
before today. And 2 months ago, that was the property in question.
Can we ask some questions?
I'd be glad to respond to anything.
Can we ask some
Yeah,
questions?
yeah.
So you had made the comment that you reached out to a local contractor.
Yes.
Your plan, you don't want, if I heard you right, you don't want to tear that building down.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. He,
What's the purpose of that if your son's living in the other one? Just, I wasn't here 2 months ago, so I just want to kind of bring myself up.
Sure, it's a storage building for him. I mean, everything's sort of a storage building for him. He's a little different character for sure. But he works out of it and he brings stuff in and out of it. I don't know why he took the door off of it. I can't explain him. I can't explain him. But yes, so we would like to keep it for that purpose right there to help with the cleanup with some of the stuff that's actually decent that needs to be out of the weather. And the contractor, in the contract that we have right now, he is framing it up, framing in the hose, and he's going to board it all and sheathe it all. And I mean, we could even paint it if we needed to make it look better. But as far as like structuring it up and getting it safe, that's the plan. So in the contract, he said he would have it in compliance by the time he's done with it. It should be at the end of this week. He was scheduled to finish it last week. But
Can we ask who the contractor is?
Sure. Jeff, he was not here.
Because for windows and any kind of,
Framing and stuff.
he would need a permit.
Yeah, he's a general
He
contractor.
hasn't contacted us for permits or.
I'll find his name real quick.
Well, and if you'll look in your background information, I mean, you're looking at, roof, ceilings,
yeah.
floors.
So another question, and this might go to you guys, Malcolm Potts for that matter. Can that be used as a place to work? Like, are we zoned where that trailer, if it was, let's say in the perfect world, also big?
Well, there's 4 lots there and they're all 4 his. There's a lot of places in this town that you've got houses on 2, 3, 4
Right.
lots. You can't have a primary or a storage building without a primary structure.
Right.
So I guess we'd consider his other one as primary.
Okay, so but then that would be considered storage based
Yes.
off like what we were just discussing. Okay.
And eventually, if I may also, it's going to allow us probably to be able to put him in that, hopefully, because I know what's next. You know, the one next door is coming now. I mean, I've been told that. So to deal with the other one too, so it's a unique situation because the man lives there. And like I said before, when I was addressing you guys, if there's something that we can do for him, we're good with that. But we're doing the best we can at this point, trying to comply.
But the problem is, if he lives without electricity and water and the basic services, that's considered substandard. So if you fix it up, you'd have to fix up that level. You know, because he needs to have electricity, running water, sewage.
And that's the plan
Yeah.
eventually too. We would start with the water is what we wanted to start with so that we could have trash service too. And slowly, financial resources is always the problem with those kinds of things, doing it all at once. Yes, we agree.
Yeah,
We
just,
agree.
it
I
needs to
agree.
have the normal,
Did we?
human water, electricity, heat, cool.
Yeah, and what I'll tell you, I appeal to the city.
Property.
What can we do?
Because it's big trailers, I'm assuming there was at some point for the water and sewer. Okay. But right now, we don't have water to either building
No,
and we don't have power to either building.
we're not even addressing.
No,
that.
I know.
I mean, that's
Look at the
illegal
other
too,
one.
but
Yeah,
especially.
I'm just saying, trying to figure out the next path, because he mentioned. trying
What
to-
time frame are you looking at?
What it limits me is the financial situation.
Yes, sir.
So whatever we're allowed to do at a certain point, this contract with this guy here was about $3,000 for me. And that was in 60 days. So that's, to me, that's a $1,500 a month payment trying to get the thing right. And that's kind of where I'm at this point. I'll just have to see what I can pay for.
So, I drove by there yesterday after reviewing some notes, and I saw 2 dumpsters there that were full, but I mean, I see, Joe, what's the big roll-offs you guys have? The big ones, 40-yarders, is that right?
40
There's-
I think
Yeah.
those are 20s right
Yeah,
there.
these are small ones, but
Those are
needless to say, well, the reason I was asking that, those right there, you're 4 to 8 away from getting that property cleaned up. That doesn't even include any kind of demo work that goes on in that house,
Well, and just as a reminder, I mean, the issue is the building. I
Yeah.
mean, obviously the trash isn't good, and so it's good that's getting cleaned up, but it's the substandard condition of that building.
But that's what I'm getting at too. So what I mean is when you go in there to rehab this, right, basically, you're still gonna have a lot of weight. You're still gonna have framing lumber, all the other construction stuff going on in there. You're still gonna have dumpsters coming up quite a bit. And just from personal experience, those things add up to thousands and thousands of dollars. Even if as a city, we said, an extended a period of time for that building. I mean, at the current rate, you're looking at 9 months, a year before you'd have that thing ready to go, regardless of what that contractor tells you. I'm just saying
That's
financially.
kind of what I'm looking, I'm sitting there thinking, in what world could a contractor?
Did he just say
I
he
can
could
get
dry it
this-
in, basically?
Yes.
Oh, just dry it in,
Just
okay.
dry it in.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
So, put some
he
windows, doors
he
on
said,
both of them.
also, we discussed some of, the framework, like a couple of the studs are missing in some of the walls and things. He'd have to put some studs in and then reach in it. Yep, reach in and cover everything. That's what he's gonna do. That's the first plan forward.
So one fear I have is, let's say, okay, we're gonna give you X number of days to get this thing up to snuff, or it's gonna be deemed substandard. And let's say that you spend $3,000 and it doesn't get there, it doesn't make it, and then all of a sudden we're having to tear this stuff down. And then you're sitting there out the material, out the labor, out the work that's done, but it just doesn't get there, because I'm looking at that building, I don't know how that becomes a livable structure. Personally, I mean, I'm not a construction guy, so I don't know.
I guess the only thing I would say about that is that, just to get it into compliance would be the goal. Just so that the city says, okay, it's in compliance, it's no longer unsafe. And so that's the goal at this point. It just get in compliance.
And
It's
now,
That's reframing doors, windows, roof,
Yeah.
sewer, water,
Has
electric.
your contractor already shored up the bottom of it, got everything structural under that building right there fixed to get it level, or
I'm not
just
sure.
stay?
I'm not sure.
I mean,
My personal opinion is, and he just said it himself, 3,000 just drying in. It's not getting it livable. It's just getting it dried in. Is what you said, right? Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah. And then the yard work, what yard work he's done so far with skid steer. So, I mean, financial help? How about the city?
You may be looking at 25,000
Yeah.
more to get it livable, because it's probably gonna be rewired, refloored, sheet rock, everything probably.
And if he, I'm sorry, I did it, so that's different.
I think it's a fantastic discussion to have, and I don't mean to steal anybody's thunder in here, but it is a different situation because that's, so it's substandard living. It is obvious that is, but what's next? Under a bridge, homeless in Corpus Christi, which is where we pulled him from to put him in that property. And so he loves it there. His life is happy. And the state of Texas has informed us. He has every right to be mentally insane. We have tried to do anything we can to help him. And they said, you can't do it. You have to let him live. And so that's what we're trying to do. And now, you know, we're here and we are
Yeah, but
absolutely
then, I mean,
willing.
this goes beyond just him. This is a substandard structure that endangers the community at large around it, you know? Cause if a kid climbs into that hole and then falls through a piece of
Or
wood and
fire.
lands on something, or something catches fire, and I mean, it's just, so it goes beyond just the occupant next door. I don't look at that and see that it could be made to get up to code in 7 days or 30 days or 60 days with less than, like you're saying, $20,000, $30,000, you know? And I don't wanna be the one to say, yeah, we've got 60 days to do this, and then in 60 days, we show up and work has been done, but it's nowhere near, and all of a sudden you're out $10,000 worth of stuff. I don't wanna do that to you, you know, I'd hate to. But our responsibility is to the city, you know, and to the taxpayers. What were you gonna say, like?
Well, at a certain point too, financially, I think you would be way ahead to build a storage building or input or bring in like a Morgan building, a pre-made building, or build a lean-to by the existing structure. Cause like Vince said, I just don't think this is ever gonna get to where it's at, and 180 days from now, we're gonna be having the same conversation if we don't make a move.
And it's 180 days having the same conversation after you pumped in $10,000 or whatever.
And
That's not
still-
fair to you.
No,
I agree with you. I think that, I mean, if this was my property and I'm sitting there saying, I've got this whole lot and I want this big storage facility, I could either pump $20,000 into this thing to make it worthwhile, or I could pay however much it costs to demo it or move it and get it a couple of storage containers.
Well, so if I may, if I make the decision to bring it into compliance and it comes into compliance, then it should be off the radar, right? And so, I mean, it's a matter of, I guess, who's determining what in compliance is, at what depth it is. If it's safe or unsafe to the community, if it's all dried in and it's all sealed up, there's no trespassing signs, there's already been a vote, verbal and written, no trespassing signs all the way around the property. It's all warned, it's property. My son don't need any danger warnings. He knows what he's doing over there. I mean, so if it's the community you're worried about, you know, it would actually be, somebody breaking the law to go over there. So, and I'm just arguing the other side of the point. I've decided and we decided if we can get that building into compliance, then why can't we make the decision to do that? Why would I need for you guys not to make that decision with me? Right?
weren't you given a 60-day extension?
For a plan, and I'm presenting the plan, and I've already started some work. Yes, sir.
Now, this dried in doesn't put your son under that bridge in Corpus Christi because he lives next door. This gone doesn't make him live under a bridge either. So this building in question is not gonna have an impact on his life other than it'll be chaotic for him because it'll be change. That's the reality of it.
Oh, you should have seen the chaos when they were working on it. I'm surprised you guys didn't.
They-
Yeah, no, I get it, I get it.
I got everything in.
What's your thoughts, guys?
And I'll just be the first one to say it, my thought is that even with a plan, I just don't know that it can be completed, so, I would declare it a dangerous building and demolish it. That's just me, within 30 days, or have it demolished within 30 days, that's just me, that's on the rest of it.
Is that a motion?
I'll make a motion, yeah, I make a move to declare 1208 dangerous building in order that the owner demolish the building within 30 days.
Second.
We have a motion, do we have a second on that?
Second.
Okay, we do, all in favor? Aye. None opposed?
Thank you.
Item Discussion, any necessary action regarding approval of Stevens County Appraisal District Annual Report. Will?
Yeah, we appreciate you guys having me. Did you let it?
Oh, hell.
So, we're gonna have a hard time following.
It's in there.
Right here.
All right, there you go.
We got you.
That's okay, that's good. Y'all can follow along
It
with
is in
that.
their packet.
That's good. Appreciate y'all having me to discuss this. This is our 2024 annual report. It's a very intriguing and enlightening report. I'm gonna just baffle you with brilliance on this. I'm glad to hear y'all are expanding. I need more room for more people. We have to do this report annually as part of our process, and present it to you guys. So our mission is to develop a timely and accurate, complete, equitable appraisal role that accurately reflects the market value of property in Stevens County. And we strive to do that in an efficient and manner, exhibiting fairness, transparency, consistency, and accountability. Second to that, in the mission, we serve as a resource for information, data, ownership, searches, maps. We've been working a lot with Cynthia on some mapping issues, zip code issues. Address issues she's gonna talk to y'all about later. So we get involved in a lot, but our main goal is to give y'all property values that you assess ad valorem tax on, which is a big portion of your funding. So this gives an overview of what all we do. On page 4, we're made up of 9 entities, 4 primary entities and 5 overlapping school districts in Stevens County. And we have a board that runs us, and we changed our board, went away from an election process, and that large election process, not open, but by the entities, to an appointment process, and your appointee is Mr. Rob Durham. His term ends at the end of 2025. Y'all can re-upping. Your appointee does not have to be a city council member. It's just who you want to serve on our board and represent you there. We have 4 full-time people in the office now. We had 1 retirement last year, and we replaced that retirement. We had an interim chief of Gary Zeitler for the last several years, which is Eagle Property Tax Consulting Services. But the guy they had hired in January 21 finally finished his certification this year and was named chief in November 15th of 2024. So that'd be me.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's a congratulations. Time will tell. We have some community councils or boards. We have an ag advisory board. We comes in and fills out a survey to give us values on our ag values, which are special values for production of agricultural products in the county. Commercial agricultural products, I should say. And then we also have what was called our appraisal review board, or ARB, which that's the people who serve to make the final determinations when there's disputes in property values. It's a lot of fun to serve on if anybody would like to apply. So the first thing I'll talk about is on page 6, the total number of parcels. I want to bring to your attention that over the last 5 years, we've seen a major decline in parcel numbers. Parcel is anything we've identified as something that needs value on it. It could be real property, it could be business personal property, an account like the inventory in a convenience store or inventory in a retail store, that would be business personal. Equipment is business personal. Industrial property is a step up from that. It's heavy equipment or like Ox Manufacturing, their CNC equipments are considered industrial level equipment. So that's what industrial property is. And the mineral property is royalty properties. And that is every royalty owner. Blake could tell you that gets down to, they trace that down to 6 decimal points. So you get to be really small property owners, and we have a lot of them. In fact, we have 65,000 on the rolls. So the number you see there under mineral property is the number that actually carries a value greater than 0. That's why you see that decline since 2020. We were at 37, a little over 37,000. This year, we're a little over 21,000. So that ought to tell you what's happened to our mineral properties in Stevens County in the last 5 years. A lot of 0 value ownership falling in there in Stevens County. Still makes up the largest portion of our parcels. Used to be the largest portion of our value, but I'll get to that in a minute. Our budget on page 5 or page 7, sorry. Our budget, if you look at us, there's 2 ways to look at our budget. One is cost per parcel. We're at $15.31. That's pretty expensive if you look at it that way. because the number of parcels have declined. I mean, we were at $7 5 years ago. That's $7 about the average statewide. So that looks pretty bad. Then you drop down, you look at us on a percentage basis, percentage of levy, and we're at 3.12% of the levy, total levy that we create. And the state average on that for just an appraisal district is about 3 to 3.5%. So we're kind of right in the middle of that. The real number there is 5%. If you include collection, and I don't know what y'all's intergovernmental agreement is for collection with the county. So if you add that together and then take a percentage, which would be under 5%, total, but I think we'll fall within that. Historical taxable value on page 8. You can see y'all been on the rise for 5 years. In fact, you saw a 58% increase over the last 5 years in value, taxable value. That's a pretty good increase. 21 and 22 was the main years for that we saw a very aggressive housing market during that time. I can't tell you why. I wish I could. It'd make a lot of money if I knew why, but I don't know why the housing market did what it did in those years. But that was when you saw 22 really was the largest increase in value. And down at the bottom, there's a graph that shows what the city's done in value. You were flat for about 7 years, from 2014 to 2021, the value stayed real flat, and then it took off. And you're seeing that 58% increase over the last 5 years. What makes up that value is on page 9. Y'all are very different than the county or the hospital or the school district, because the makeup shifted greatly for them over the last 10 years. Because if you look at the county graph in the middle of that page, about 40%, 45%, 46% was mineral value. If you go back one more year, 2013, 71% was mineral value. And if you look at mineral value today in the county, it's about 11%. So a huge change, shift. And it used to be, I still have people tell me we're driven by oil and gas. Oil and gas drives our values. Those days are over. They never drove them in the city. If you drop down and look at the city's graph of what makes up your value, mineral value never really drove your value, but it was a portion of it back in 2014. It's a very small 2% today inside the city limits. So the great majority, 79.6% of your value is made up of real property, or that would be your buildings and structures. Most of that housing, residential housing, and I'm not gonna stand here and tell you whether that's good or bad. I don't know. It all depends on what the housing market does. But you know, a crash like in 2008 would be tough right now for all of us. So we hope to avoid that. The levy, how much you generate, that's also increased at a rate of about 58-59% over the last 5 years, from 1.9 million up to 3.1 million this past year in 24. The adjustment to rate, what you want to see is levy go up and rate go down. Y'all's rate has come down some. It's that showed down in the chart at the bottom. It had gotten in 2020, it was like $1.12 or something like that. I think down to $1.04 now. So seeing a decrease like that. The school district looks a little different in that same time frame, but that's because they were forced to go down. They had legislation that pushed them and compression that pushed them in that drop. So it's a little bit different thing. Use of properties, that is a countywide, that's on page 11. That's countywide look, that's all the properties in our district. See, 3,200 single family parcels. The only thing I could really say about the city, in 23, there was 1,024 empty city lots, and that dropped to 930 in 2024. I can't prove it, but my gut tells me that's your housing initiatives, pushing houses to be built on vacant lots and selling vacant lots for that purpose. That shifts those, and so that's a pretty significant decrease, almost 100 in a year's time is a pretty good decrease. So I think that initiative had some effect there. It puts more on the tax roll.
Well, I'll just remind you guys from our comprehensive plan update, 25% of our housing is vacant.
Mhm.
And 30% is substandard or dangerous, so.
30% of it, oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it will help, I mean, and that's why the city has, I mean, even before I got here, had a push to address this, so you could do infill, development.
Next couple of pages have to do with ag, which you may not have a huge interest in what those values do or how they're calculated or what's ag exempt and what's not, because anything inside, we say anything inside the city limits cannot be ag exempt, and that's not a factual statement. There are some instances when you can have ag exemption inside the city limits, but it's very, very rare. And you have to meet a lot of qualifications like no city services, things like that. But we do have some, but the real thing I would show you there on page 13 is what market values have done in the county on land. And people just don't believe this, but you know, you take a 20-acre tract out in the county and it's moved from about $4,000 an acre to about $10,000 an acre in the last 5 years. And they're just, everybody wants 20 acres just outside the city limit, and they're not available. But even large acre tracts have seen a significant increase from, you know, roughly 1,800. We were at 1,800 a long time in land values. And now a 1,000-acre tract might sell for 4,200 an acre plus. So significant increases in our area. Mostly what we see is large acre tracts being broken into smaller tracts, 100-acre, 200-acre tracts and selling off. We've had 3 developments in the county outside the city limits, large developments that took 200-acre tracts and dropped them down to 10 to 15-acre tracts and selling those. We just had our 4th one filed, I think, or getting ready to file it in the survey. It's another pretty sizable, about 300 acres. They've broken up into 10-acre tracts. So those are selling like hotcakes, most of them in the southeast end of the county, very accessible off the interstate. And that's who we see purchase them, generally the people from the east. The exemption data, we have lots of exemptions to help people. We're doing a homestead audit right now. Y'all may have heard grumblings about that all over town. This was a new law that, it's not even a law, it's a new comptroller initiative. We had to have a driver's license on file, a valid driver's license on file for your homestead. Before, we just had to look at it. Then they came back last year and said, no, you need a copy of it. Well, okay, what if you came in and, you know, what if somebody's 95 years old and they came in 1980 and got their homestead exemption? You need to get a copy of their driver's license. So we're running around town, you know, visiting some of our elderly, taking pictures of driver's license to get their homestead and safe. You're doing whatever we need to do to help with that, because I don't know why we need a copy, but comptroller says we need a copy. I hope he's not watching. So
reason you wanted mine.
That's it. Yes, sir, that's it. It's been, we've had a great response, but we've sent out about 1,100 mailings, and I think we've gotten about 500 back, people coming in and doing it. But if somebody asks you, it takes 2 minutes. You walk in, we scan your driver's license, you fill out a form that says this is the only homestead you have, and it's over. So it's harmless, but you want to keep your homestead exemption. You don't want to lose that exemption. We do nonprofits, we do disabled veterans, disability exemptions. The over 65, everybody strives to get to that exemption because it's the best one out there. But the one that hit us this last 2 years was in the last legislative session called the circuit breaker exemption. And so in a homestead exemption, your assessed value, what you're taxed on, can only go up 10% a year from the previous year. So you see a little bit of an increase every year in what you're being taxed on and the amount you pay. But it's protection, because like in 22, some properties saw a 45% increase in Stevens County in 1 year, and they had to swallow that. So the legislature came back and said, no, we're going to put a cap on that called the circuit breaker, and you can only go up 20% on anything that's not under a homestead. So for the city, y'all had 820 of those that got hit, and it took 5.6 million off your tax roll. Not huge, but significant. And so and I tell you that because the legislature right now is debating that rule. It was only for 2 years, and they're reviewing it right now. It's not high level on the discussion, so I think it's probably going to go away. It bought people time, but it's not something they wanted to do long term. And that aggressive market has stopped. an aggressive real estate market, so I think they'll probably just let it go away quietly. And you'll realize some of that value back next year. Homesteads or home sites inside the city limits are on the increase. Home sites are platted lots that could be used as a home site or should be used as a home site. That's their highest and best use. So that's some areas that have, inside the city limits, we've had some areas that have broken up or they returned, or somebody had a lot next to them and they sold it for a house to be built on and became a home site again instead of just extra property. But that's on the increase. Over 65 exemptions is still on the increase inside the city limits. And the other thing we're seeing is the constitutional exemption going up, and I think that's gonna be due to tax liens and taking back property, and it becomes exempt once y'all take it back. Our protest on page 17, your appraisal review board that represents the county is Scott Harris, Sally Satterwhite, Luke Grouder, and Pam Langford. They do a great job. It's a very hard job. So what happens is everybody has the right to protest their value. When their value comes out in May, you get a notice, you have the right to protest. You file protest. If I can't settle it with you, or appraiser can't settle it with you, then you go to ARB, and ARB hears your side, they hear our side, they have to make a decision on that value. It puts you in some tough spots. Gets a little personal sometimes because we're a small town, everybody knows each other by name, so. I had one look at me and said, your father would not be proud of you. It gets a little personal, but they do a great job on making those decisions. We had, that number skewed on page 18. We had 405 real property, protests, but we had to put in this year, is the first time we had to put every mineral protest in and every industrial protest in. Well, what mineral and industrial properties are managed by big companies. So when they protest everything. So like an industrial property, they don't just protest the property as a whole. They protest how much I put on that particular piece of equipment. And they will look at every piece of equipment. All that washes out and gets settled out real fast. But we had to track them this year for the first time. That's why those numbers look so big. But our protests were down from the previous 2 years. We saw a high number of protests those previous years because everybody's upset about the big increases in value, rightfully so. So they were down a little bit. We settled most of them in informal process. We had, I think, 46 go to, or something like that, go to the actual ARB. So well, that says 67. It went to the ARB as joint motions, and 22 that were ARB determinations. That's when they actually had to make a decision on. So, but thankfully we don't have any litigation or any SOA hearings or anything like that going on. Nobody filed to go through with that. So we're in good shape because we don't have a litigation fund. So if we go to litigation, I'll be up here asking you for more money. No, I hope not to do that. The last two things I'll touch on is we're audited by the comptroller in two different ways. One is called the MAPS, which is our processes and procedures, and they check us. We have not passed MAPS since 2019. And they come every 2 years, so it's not that they looked at us every year. Although we did have what's called a targeted MAPS last year, which is a deeper dive. But we passed MAPS this year for the first time since 2019. I'll take my own home. The bigger one is the PBS, which is the value study, and that's where the comptroller comes in and they compare how we have values, appraised values on properties, and they look at what the properties actually sold for among different categories. We have not passed that since 2019. When we fail that, they hold money back from the school district. So because they say you didn't get funded fully locally, so the state's not gonna fund you fully either. So it's not a direct correlation. That calculation's like this long, but they come up with a number and they hold that back on the school district. We passed that this year. We're at 95%. So, it's a hard time getting there. I don't mean to get emotional, but
I mean, you can come out.
We come out of that, they can breathe for 2 years. You gotta have 95%, and I had 95.33. Prouder of 0.33, but the challenge in that was,
when I came on in 21, we were at 78% of value. And you know what happened at the end of 21?
Yeah.
So I went up 30% my first year here, and I was 35% low the next year. I went up 30% again the next year, and I was 22% low. So, you know, I'm trying to catch up, and the market's just running from me. And so to finally catch it was like, you know, catching the dog by the tail. I finally felt like we may be okay for a while, so.
Well, I have a question on that though. It's all hypothetical, but if the market goes down, that's another battle for you guys, isn't it? Cause we gotta.
It is, and I will admittedly say I haven't done my sales studies this year, in detail. I'm gonna start those next week. Markets right now, what we see sales coming in and the data we're getting, it's not that the numbers are going down, it's just nothing moving.
Nothing, yeah.
I mean, it's just dead right now.
And that's nationwide, that's not.
Yeah, it's
just
everywhere. I mean,
Breckenridge,
we
that's
all talk,
nationwide.
yeah, all the
Yeah.
CAD guys talk, we lick our wounds together, so it's all over the state. And it's just like when you saw that aggressive growth, it wasn't just Stevens County.
No.
It was statewide, you know, and it was seeing
Yeah,
those
we're
kind of
good.
increases.
If you have to go to Fort Worth down 20, you know, Jesus Christ, what a
Yeah.
nightmare that's become. So, yeah.
But I think this year values are gonna stay pretty
Yeah.
flat. If anything, they won't, I mean, I'd say anything on video, but I don't see any justification for an increase. They may stay flat. They may come down a little, you know, where stuff was selling 15-20% above market value for a long time, it started selling at market value. And maybe, you know, 5% off, and now it's more like it's on the day, it's staying on the market 120 days and selling for 5 to 10, which is a normal amount for us.
That's a normal
That's kind of the norm market for us. So I think we're at a very stable market, but there's just not a lot of sales going on. I mean, we were seeing sometimes during the 22, 23 time period, we might see 50, 75 sales a week with stuff out in the county. And that's,
Yeah, the
I mean, when
realtors
you're
are a
used to
whole
seeing-
lot happier.
we're used to seeing 50, 75 a year, you know, and we would have some weeks where there would be that many sales, just crazy. That was just a crazy time period. But I'll be glad to answer any questions. Thank y'all for bearing with me. I know that, I mean, I get excited about it, but I know it's boring to everybody.
I'm the most excited I've seen you in months.
Thank you, Will.
Thank y'all. Appreciate your time and bearing with me.
Take care of it, man. Say it. All right, guys.
I move to approve Stevens County Appraisal District Annual Report as presented.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? Thank you, guys. Item 10, discussion and any necessary action regarding planning and zoning commission's recommendation to replat the property located at 105 North Road, currently legal described as original addition, block 7, lot 1, 2, 3, and E2 of 4, and 317 West Elm, currently legal described as original addition, block 7, lot 5 and 6, West 2 of 4. Did you get all that?
I did, and that's why Will's cranky all the time. You have to look at that all day long.
Yeah.
That's,
So this is.
that's not it,
um,
Jessica. Thanks, the other one.
Yeah, that's,
That's
No.
next.
It's this-
Is it this one?
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
so this is right here. So it's this block that we're, City
The
Hall
building
is on.
next to it
And
behind
then,
us.
you know, where Baxley's is, okay, so Steve Whitmire bought Baxley's. And so you guys, there's that house right over there. So what they're doing is, that's how the line is drawn now. So P and Z reviewed this last week and they did recommend approval. And what that is, this is the new line. And what that does, we still have another step to record the deed for that house to actually legally be the city's. And what that will allow us to do is demolish that home, substandard, and then it will just be, you know, an empty lot, or, you know, we'll use it parking.
I'm just laughing because the nice thing is all that stuff's gone. All the cars, all that.
What's that?
All this is finally gone.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
they need to break down, clean it
He's
up.
yeah.
I mean, that was
Yeah.
a mess since moved here, and so Malcolm has stayed on them this entire time and it took a different property owner. So we're here and this is good news. So this item right here, just, is the replat alone, will file the deed, after this.
And I realize that's not a hard line. So when you come out of Baxley's, he's got like a awning or storage
Yeah,
on the backside of it, so. Does it kind of go to the backside of that storage building and then from that point to the street? It would
Yes.
go to-
and there is a, if you.
The next one might show, I just,
It's
it
got-
didn't
yeah,
have the
we got
building
that.
on it, so.
So that's the, actual code.
Okay.
So tonight is just the approval of the replat and, P and Z did recommend that you all approve.
Move to approve planning and zoning commission's recommendation to approve a replat to the property located at 105 North Rose and 317 West Elm as presented.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor? None opposed? Thank you. Item 11, discussion and necessary action regarding planning and zoning recommendation to replat the property located 704 East Dyer, currently legally described as East Breckenridge Edition, Lot 20, Lot 1, 2, and 3.
So this is another replat. This is what it currently looks like. P and Z did recommend approval for you guys, but it was 3 lots. And so it's replatted into 2. And I believe the survey's on there as well.
Yes.
I move to approve planning and zoning commission recommendation to approve a replat to the property located at 704 East Dyer as presented.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor? None opposed? Item 12, discussion, any necessary action regarding approval of street improvement project phase 2, change order 2.
So we've got the engineer here tonight. Yeah, you can come on up, Sage. So what this is, I just kind of wanted to lay out. We've done the street improvement that's been ongoing, started off with an evaluation. Phase 1 was the streets that we did, that was Rose, Elliott, and 7th, and the intersection. Phase 2 is what we're currently in. And this is the map on that. And so the yellow is what is, most of it is completed. And this is a change order to that, and you'll see the streets in red. And what, the reason why we're coming with this change order, this was initiated by the city. And we want to take advantage of these are streets that were identified in the street improvement plan, so they're not extra streets. It's just the timing of them. And so, because they're mobilized and we've got good pricing, that's why we're coming to you with, this potential change order. And I'll let you elaborate on that
Okay.
message.
Great, thank you, Cynthia.
Thanks for being.
I believe in your packets, they have the change order document, which kind of outlines the status of the contract. Original price. What this contract change order is proposing is to increase the contract amount by $210,244.65. The second page adds more detail, or actually third page, more detailed breakdown of that. What that is a combination of the reductions on the contract by some of the quantities once installed were under what was in the original proposal. So we're rectifying those contracts or those quantities, and then we're adding in those 3 streets that are shown there on the map and those new quantities, yes. And so that sums to an additional total of $210,244. That'll bring the total current contract price to $2,830,071.83, which we still believe we are going to have some quantity savings in some areas, which is going to still remain a little bit of funds left on the job. We can, by state law, you can add up to 25% of the original contract price. And so having funds available, we're trying to, where appropriate, add some additional work. And so we're going to be evaluating that in this contract. And then, we're also looking at the phase three. We'll talk about that here in just a minute. But, yeah, this contract is going in my opinion, it's in a good state. Contractor's doing a good job. We're covering, good portion of town. You'll see in the next item, kind of what all has been done. But this job has gone well, and, I think we're making a dent on some of the
Well, and
roadway
just to
improvements.
back up, yeah,
Okay.
so this was intentional, so, we looked at, there were a lot of different variables that we looked at. Obviously, we've got some other moving parts with the Texas Water Development Board, water line improvements that we've got going on. But what we tried to do was get projects on every section of town. And so you will see that in the next item. You see it here, but you'll see it even more clearly when I show you the next map and the next item. But yeah, I think that they've done a good job. And there have been, I know I've had some questions. There's manholes that still have to be raised up, and they're coming back and they're doing that. We'll do a final punch list, with some of the curbs on Holland that you've mentioned.
I was gonna mention, like I drove down Holland today, and again, it's not that, it's a whole lot than it ever was. But there seems to be like seams, I don't know if they just need to run that.
Like down the middle?
No,
or-
it's in different spot, like if you go down, like if you start at Holland, let's say,
On the freeway?
yes, and then that may be the whole thing, that's, I noticed that today, I went, well, it's all been done, but then when I drove down, we just got some uneven spots, but if there's another layer going
There would be
across
another
the
final
top,
lift.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then that takes.
And that's one reason, that's a concrete street with a lot of broken
Yes.
areas, and we're trying to absorb that, those, vertical deficiencies. With.
Wow, that was good. I like that one. That was good.
With some.
Engineer minds.
Yes.
Yes, sir, we're hoping to address those, with the final lift.
That's a problem. You guys are engineers, I do. We get nuts by you.
So our recommendation at this point is, approval of this change order. If you have any further questions, please let me know.
I'm gonna approve change order number 2 for the street improvement project and authorize the city manager to execute documents.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor? All right, passed. Item 13, discussion and necessary action regarding engineer work order 42 for street improvements phase 3.
So this, and please stay up here, says that this is, so phase 3 will be the next section of roads. And so we need to onboard, even though they're our city engineer, we're onboarding them for the engineering, design, and RFP services, inspection, and all of that. So if you'll show that map, yeah, there we go. So the light blue ones are the phase 1 projects. The green ones are phase 2, and then the yellow will be phase 3. And a lot of those, and I'm gonna let you talk about how we're interlocking, the Texas Water Development Board or water lines in here as well.
Yeah, so, it's a kind of a delicate dance on the timing. The city is getting approved, with the Water Development Board for, I think it's 2022 DWSRF, so water line improvements. We've designed the project, we've sent it to the Water Development Board, we've been waiting on approval. We anticipate that any day now. So the next step we would go to bid, and then we'd go to construction, and there are portions of those streets planned for phase 3 that will pave the street once the water line has been placed. So we're trying to expedite the water line construction, and we'll be strategic, and some of the paving may have to wait till the back end of the summer, depending upon the advancement of the water line replacement. So anyway, we're trying to juggle all that. In addition, we're also kind of planning, there's another Water Development Board fund that the city's been approved for. I know Cynthia's informed you on that. It's the RWAF, which is going to be additional water line replacement. And so we did not expect the city to get funded that quickly. We're pleased to hear that. And so we're having to kind of take that into consideration on our pavement planning. So all of this is coming together nicely. It's just, we're trying to be strategic on which roads we pave and when.
You try not to pay before you do the climate.
That's
You know,
cool.
that's the goal. You know, at one point in time, we had applied for funding and we couldn't get it. So the idea was, we can't just sit around and not pave any roads. We gotta go, regardless if, you know, we can have to come back and replace some water lines down the road. Well, then we were pleasantly surprised with this RWAF fund, which came faster than expected. So now we're kind of doing a little bit of adjustments on which streets we pick and how we apply all that. But that is the intention, get as many of the utilities addressed with the funds available and then follow it up with the paving money that's available. So, before you on this item is our proposed work order to design, survey, design, bid, and do construction management on the phase 3 paving, which are the roadways outlined there, on the screen for phase 3.
And of course, this is funded, with the CO 2023 funds.
But one other thing on this proposed phase 3 is we're projecting to be about $2.5 million in construction. And if we get, if actually bids come in around that area and you add up all 3 phases, that will be about 6.6 million in roadway construction over the last, well, at that point will be about 3-year time frame. So as you can see, we're really, spreading out pretty well over the city.
Your services come in about 10%.
Actually, just under. If you look at all of the construction for the 3 phases, we're under 10%. And I will say typically industry standard with construction phases is about 10 to 15%. We do a lot of work with Breckenridge. We've been here a long time. We always try to do the best we can to be efficient with funds. So that's kind of where the fees fall out.
I move to approve, sorry. I move to approve engineering work order number 42 as presented and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement.
Motion second, all in favor? Aye. No opposed? Thank you, Sally. Appreciate it very much. I know there's a lot of work goes into that, my gosh.
Yes, sir. So the city's been blessed with some good funding, so that really helps.
Yeah, well, we got good people doing that, Cynthia and all her.
That's the train range. From where it started.
I'm in the wrong end of this.
Item 13, discussion and interaction regarding ordinance 2025-04, amending chapter 5 buildings and structures of the Breckenridge Code ordinances.
So Mayor and Commissioner, what you have here is, we initiated a work group. The challenge is not everybody's using the 911 addressing, and Will alluded to that. And so what that means is first responders, emergency manager, code enforcement, we're not able to find those homes. So obviously we're starting in the city, but state law actually does require them to have 911 addresses to have that. But this will update our ordinance to put it on our ordinance, and it will also update our ordinance to make it visible from the roadway. So for first responders, emergency managers, they can find the home, code enforcement, they can find the home. And the work group entailed the appraiser, the United States Postal Service, we've got the postmaster, COG, they're in charge of the 911 addressing. And, we brought all the partners together. And so this is what the city needs to do. COG and the Postal Service are doing an audit on our behalf, which we're thankful for. And that will allow us then to do a mailing to everybody, and we'll do public education as well, just to make sure everybody knows they have to have that. And then we'll give them the information if they don't have it, where they go to get that 911 address. And they'll have a certain amount of time to get that. And we'll do a mailing, and hopefully we'll be able to really address this challenge. I mean, I know Jay could talk about challenges. I mean, Malcolm's been around for a long time. He can talk about the challenges in finding places on call outs. And again, this is just the city, not the county, but once we start it here, hopefully the county.
If mine's on fire, don't go to Horacio, because that's where it's gonna take. And the whole city's that way.
What's that?
Like, you put in my address, you're gonna go to my neighbor past me.
Right, yeah.
Because I guess somewhere along the line, we decided to jump me and add another one, whatever it was, but
Right.
now you mentioned, and just for clarification for me, was from the road. So we don't have a lot of curbs, nor in a bigger city, you got curbs everywhere where you can slap the number down on the curb. How do we address that? I mean,
Well, no, it has to be on their house, it's gotta be 6 inches.
so,
4 inches for residential, 6 inches for
Yeah.
commercial.
okay, that's what I was trying to
Contrasting
clarify.
color to the house, but a 4 inch, yes, so you can see it from the.
So Malcolm, does my Green Acres sign work?
They don't allow wording.
Numbers.
But if you
You gotta have,
Uh,
what they call it, Arabic numbers.
So, give you another example, we can just use my house, so my front door technically faces Walker. Even though I live on Sunset. And there is nowhere necessarily on the front of my house to put that, unless
You
we
could
put.
put, like on your post of your Green Acres sign.
Yeah, I mean, we
You
can
put on that, Or
do,
you could put a stake that has.
that's what I was gonna say, that's what I was asking, are we gonna have to come up?
It addresses.
We're gonna have to
that.
clear that, make that real clear with everybody, cause I know you can drive around Breckenridge right now and you don't.
Some of the houses are far off the street, you gotta have it up by
Yeah.
the road where you can see it on the
Okay.
gate or a post or
It's
something.
gotta be visible from the.
From the street, right. I
Some of the
agree.
911 addresses are different than what the actual visible address on the house is right now.
Exactly,
Yeah.
that's.
That's where I've run
Especially
into
when
it.
you get out in the country.
Okay.
Well, in the city
Yeah.
limits, I've found it where the house is labeled a certain number and I look at the 911 address and it's 13 digits lower than the house. So.
I don't like all of them. One owner, four owners.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah. So this is just updating, this part, what is before you tonight, that's the whole picture, but what's before you tonight is updating our ordinance to allow us to do this.
Move to approve ordinance 2025-4 as presented.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor? Aye. None opposed? Item 15, discussing the necessary action to approve the ordinance 2025-05, amending chapter 13, occupational licenses and regulations, article 6, gaming machines.
So what this does, I'm just gonna highlight it, and if you have questions, I mean, the chief can respond, Chief Johnson can respond, but, this is streamlining the process as it involves, tracking and processing, and will enable us to deny permits if certain, criteria exist. So, currently, the internal process is kind of fractured as far as the process, so we're really trying to streamline that and reduce the number of people involved, and include the police department and code, because they're kind of on the front lines of this. So if you have any questions, Chief Johnson is here, he can respond to those.
Motion on it?
I move to approve ordinance 2025-05 as presented.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, guys. Item 16, discussion regarding the impacts of order rage, and we'll go back to our city manager.
So this is a discussion item only. I wanted to bring this to your attention because I don't know that it has been brought up to you for quite some time, and we haven't had bonds in place, we haven't borrowed money, and what happens when we borrow money and they're tax exempt bonds, basically tax exempt notes. And then we sell them or we earn interest in a tax market. The difference is arbitrage, and we're liable to pay that difference. We can't make money on it. And so you'll see in the background information, we're talking about the CO 2023 and then the TWDB notes that we have. And so right now, basically, again, the city borrows money at a low interest rate or no interest rate, and it's tax exempt. And then we invest it, we get a higher yield. And so there's a calculation that happens on what we can keep and then what we have to pay back to the treasury. And it happens every 5th year. That's when it's calculated. So right now, I mean, that calculation will change in your background information. I have it on the CO 23 notes. The amount that we're gonna have to pay back, if we had to pay it back today, would be $151,000. Keep in mind, we've got about $500,000 in interest. So we'll still retain some of that interest. But that will mature in 27, 9/13/27 is when that final calculation will be. And then for the COs on 2022, A and B, the fifth bond year will be in 28, and that is 274,186 right now that would have to be rebated. Which is still, again, it's coming from the interest earnings, we just don't keep it all. That's what arbitrage is, so I just wanted to let you guys know that and prepare you for that, so we're not spending it.
They'll be, we gotta pay money back.
Yeah, writing that check.
Nobody
would be
likes to
hard.
write that check.
That was just for your information, discussion only.
All right, thanks, Seth. No action on that only. Item 17, discussion and necessary action regarding ordinance 2025-03, amending fiscal year 2024-2025 official budget adopted by ordinance 2024-16.
So we do the budget amendments, once or twice a year. And I will say in this one, you will see, I do want to point out a couple that are coming from our fund balance, and that is, which I had advised you guys of that, and our fund balance has gone up. If you remember the audit, we're still in a good position. But the temporary housing cost for the fire station and other costs involving the fire station will be coming from fund balance. So that's a big chunk of that. That's 67,000 just for the temporary housing. And then at the last minute, we added stuff to the budget last year, and that was the Johnny Trigg contract. That was 10,000, and then the interlocal with the with the county for municipal court, paying the JP, and that's about 6,000. Most of the other stuff it's in between line items and we'll cover, but those are the things that are actually gonna come from fund balance.
So Malcolm costs us a bunch of money.
But I will say, remember our strategic goals, invest in our employees and, Malcolm, if you want to talk about, just the morale of the firefighters and.
It's out the roof now.
No trips and falls, no crawling through a hole.
Those guys are happy, they're
Yeah.
very appreciative.
How is that thing?
It's
I've got
good.
down there.
We're gonna try to hold like an open house
Yeah,
in the near future, maybe do it when we do our class that week, that Monday night.
yeah, we did want to do an open house and invite the community in, just so they can see what's going on. But yeah, and and I know it was done in-house, but they did some fundraising, so they got new furniture, new beds and new chairs in there. And if you've seen the conditions that they've been in for years.
Has everybody seen what they used to live in?
Yeah,
Crazy.
so.
Adequate.
All right, thank you again, Cynthia.
Well, we need a motion on
I
that.
move to approve ordinance
Yeah.
2025-03, amending fiscal year 2024-05 official budget adopted by ordinance 2024-16 as presented.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor? Aye. None opposed, thank you. Any items information you'll leave with the city manager for next time around? If you do, you can contact her whenever.
Bob over here right now.
6:54 p.m. This meeting is adjourned. Thank all of you for being here. Very much. You're up. All right, man. Thanks, Andy. That's it.